Just close my camera, right? Or just don't allow it.
I'm gonna leave the Hangout on mine once y'all are in. Okay, just sent you the link.
All right.
Mute.
Okay, there you go. So there it is. You sign in. So do I need to sign in? So well.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us. We're going to start at 2 o'clock. So if you want to just hang out, you can. If you have any questions that you want to make sure we cover, you can go ahead and type those in the comments now. But we will be back with you at 2 o'clock.
Okay.
This is just our audio test. So everybody let us know that you can hear us, and we'll start in about 1 minute.
Hey everyone, welcome to our second in the Learn to Discern series. My name is Misty Wilson-Mertens, and today we are going to be talking about spies and ties. Please excuse my voice, I'm getting over being sick. I am just your host today though, so you won't have to hear me very much. And your two presenters today are going to be Angela Thurman, who teaches economics.
Hi, hello to all my students, and looking forward to this webinar.
And Professor Davis Hanna, who teaches English.
I do. Hi. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad that you can hear us this time.
All right, ladies, so let's just jump into this. Tell me all about corporate espionage and about the conspiracy theories around that.
So, hi, everyone. This is Miss Hannah. So there's economic espionage and corporate espionage. Those are the two kinds of spying that really have to do with money. Economic refers to espionage conducted by governments, and that's not really what we're going to focus on. We're going to focus mostly on corporate espionage, which is kind of dirty deeds done by businesses. So there's some legal forms of corporate espionage, and this is usually referred to as competitive intelligence. And what you guys might not know about me is, even though I'm an English teacher, this used to be my job. So competitive intelligence includes gathering and analyzing information on competing businesses. So if you are D.R. Horton Homes and you want to know about your competitors' businesses, you might gather information about the way other home builders operate, the way other home builders staff their business hierarchy, their pricing models, all kinds of information like that. Competitive intelligence is legal and ethical. It's mostly finding and gathering information that's publicly available from news, press releases, websites, trade shows, networking, conversations, building relationships, things in publications. So if there's a story about a competitor in a magazine, going to meetings, listening to speeches, all that kind of stuff. It also includes recruitment research, so finding out information about their vice president, because you might want to woo their vice president to your company if they're especially good. And you see that happen a lot, right? High-level CEOs or high-level executives going from one company to another in the same kind of field. If it's legal, that means that no one is stealing any intellectual property. That's IP. So no one is stealing your secret designs for an iPhone. No one's stealing the secret recipe for Coca-Cola. All of that is considered illegal competitive intelligence. So that's what legal, ethical espionage looks like. Not so legal espionage, which was never my job. I never did any of this. That means stealing intellectual property. That means going after people's customers or customer databases, tapping into their information, getting advance notice of sale. So if I know that D.R. Horton is going to lower their prices next week, then I'm going to lower my prices this week, that kind of stuff. Research and development leaks from companies. So when Samsung and iPhone get into a war over design and somebody leaks information from one company to another. Insider trading, which you might remember from Martha Stewart. That's not so legal corporate espionage. And a lot of times it's like a literal person who works for one company, goes undercover and gets hired at another company to steal information about business practices. It's not very common anymore, but sometimes it does happen. And all of those are examples of not so legal corporate espionage. All right. Oh, violating non-compete clauses. So if you work for one company you probably sign something that says you can't go work for our competitor within a year. And if you violate that, it's also illegal.
And why would they have that? Why would they want, if, for instance, say you were the head of sales for Horton, why would they want you to sign a non-compete? Aren't you able to just take yourself and go work for someone else?
Probably not, because the company will have invested a great deal of money in my training and development as an executive, which means that if DR Horton pays me a salary and pays for my training, and I get really good at being the director of sales for that company, and then I immediately turn around and go work for History Maker Homes, I'm taking their investment in me and giving it to another company. So I sign if I'm an important enough person, which I've never been, but if I'm an important enough person, I'm asked to sign a non-compete clause, which means you can't go work for one of our competitors a year or 2 years after you leave our company. It also keeps people from being able to steal each other's employees. So you can't take my director of sales by offering them $10,000 more a year and hurting my company in the process.
Okay.
All right. So the more important question is, how does this affect you or me or any of us? Like, who cares, right? Well, if people are fighting over your data, that means your data is less secure. And your data is all over the place. So if you bought some lotion last weekend at Bath and Body Works, I always get them confused.
They're very confusing.
If you bought some lotion at Bath and Body Works last weekend and they said, hey, what's your email address? Hey, what's your zip code? Right? They're building a database of customer information, and they're going to find out how often you buy lotion, how often you respond to sales emails. And that information is very valuable. So if companies are fighting over your data, it means your data is not secure.
Is that also, like if you, for example, go on and you Google what is the best skin lotion, and then all of a sudden you start getting I do, and then you get those side little pop-ups about, hey, here's a sale on skin lotion. So you're saying that they are following everything I'm doing online?
Absolutely.
And they're tracking every keystroke.
In fact, if you even didn't do a Google search, but you did... If you didn't even do a Google search, but you typed into Facebook, you said, hey, man, I really need some lotion, they would pick that up also and start advertising to you.
Got it. All right. And for our comment, the beyond part, it means everything else. Oh. Not just for the bed, not just for the bath, but for everywhere.
Everywhere.
Who knew?
The beyond.
Who knew?
So sometimes competition between corporations, actually most of the time competition between corporations lowers prices for consumers. If Winco has eggs for cheaper, that means Kroger has to lower their prices, or everyone's going to go to Winco for eggs. So competition a lot of times benefits consumers, not always. The economics professor could probably explain that a little better than I can. But sometimes companies conspire together to fix prices.
Which is illegal.
Conspire together to fix prices. The comments are cracking me up. I'm going to stop looking at them. To keep prices from going any lower. So it's illegal if we said nobody's going to sell lotion for less than $20. Then nobody could find it for less than $20, and they could all make more money. But as Professor Thurman just told us, that's illegal.
Yeah, price fixing is illegal. It is against the law. And that is in the United States. If you were to go outside of the United States, then it is legal to have a price fixing organization, which is exactly what OPEC is. And if you've been following in the news, OPEC has now decided, or they're considering to add Russia to OPEC, which should kind of freak you out. Russia already has a lot of market power. OPEC is allowed to set the price. And the way they do that is by setting the supply. If you set the supply, then you set the price. But in the United States, that is illegal.
Now, and OPEC sets prices for oil and gas.
Correct.
Okay. And so the other way that corporate espionage can affect you as a consumer and a person is when companies start going after each other. This is where you might see spyware or malware, and that's that's how your computer knows what you're looking at and possibly knows what you're talking about when you have certain devices in your home. You guys are making lots of comments about Siri and Alexa. And so, and also DDoS attacks, which are directed denial of service. So that's companies attacking each other's websites, shutting down the user interface, which would keep you from being able to access information or keep you from being able to shop online. And those are all ways that this kind of stuff directly affects us. This is I'm so excited about what we're about to talk about.
So this is all really interesting.
Yeah.
But I'm only here for conspiracy theories.
You're only here for conspiracy
So
theories.
tell me, are secret organizations controlling the economy?
Well, are they or are they not? What do you guys think?
So I'm eager to hear what our students think in the comments. I know my students make a lot of jokes about the Illuminati. I don't know if anybody genuinely believes that the Illuminati is controlling anything. As a wise intellectual, that's who I am. Just kidding. As a
I thought
wise,
she was referring to me.
as a wise intellectual, I'm going to say probably not.
All of our students are saying yes.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
all of our
yes.
students are saying yes.
The Illuminati rule.
Okay, yep, they all think secret organizations are controlling the economy.
All right. Let's talk about it. So most people, when they talk about anybody or any organization controlling the economy, they're talking about a new world order, meaning that there is a group, a cabal of government and or business leaders that are secretly conspiring to control everything.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about that, here are some very popular ideas that are out there, and I am not kidding that these are serious. So the first one is the World Economic Forum.
Now that's real, right?
That is real.
Okay.
That is in Davos, Switzerland. In real life, it really is the group of government and business leaders that do come together to discuss world issues. However, many people think that what goes on the surface, what is reported, is a cover for what really goes on, which is that they are making decisions to rule the world, to set prices, to do everything. The second one, I am not making this up. You can Google this. A lot of people believe that there are aliens living among us and that they rule the world and that they rule people. So there are powerful people that really are aliens. So you can Google that. I did not make that up. You look skeptical.
That one I believe.
You believe that?
No.
We also have discordianism, and that is a form of anarchism, which is anything where you're basically fighting against the government. So when you hear, you got to fight the man, then that is discordianism. Also drug culture.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
see?
this whole they're all out to get us.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And then a lot of people come into the New World Order beliefs through the drug culture or the counterculture, right? A lot of things.
That's where they get their paranoia.
There you go. Yes, people really are out to get you, and here they are. And then there's the Chaos Society. This is based on feeding misinformation. And this actually starts sounding real when you look at Brexit and when you look at the Trump election.
Oh, yeah. Fake news.
Fake news.
Okay.
Exactly. So this is the belief that by introducing chaos, you can destabilize the powers that be. But this also assumes that there is a group that is organizing this, that pulls the strings. And then we have the 13. The 13 is a belief that ancient bloodlines rule the world to this day. And that some of those bloodlines are the Astors, the DuPonts, the Rockefellers, the Freemans, there's the Lee family. So these are all over the world. They're not just American families. They're from every corner of the world that they secretly get together, like something out of a James Bond film, and that they make these decisions. And it is not too far-fetched when you consider that a lot of these people collectively control millions, billions of dollars.
A strong percentage of the amount of money in the world.
That is exactly right.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? Do any of these sound believable to you? I'm asking the students. Do any of these strike a chord?
So a lot of them are intrigued by aliens. I don't know that any of them think that aliens overlord are
Oh, we're
overlording
gonna
and
talk
hidden
about
among
this
us.
then.
But I think they're intrigued by the theory and the kind of salaciousness of that. But I mean, the Chaos Society sounds very plausible when you think about it. However, I think it's probably more governments working against each other than it is secret societies. Me personally, I don't have. I will also say, any of you who are watching this who are interested in this topic of fake news, one of our webinars from last semester is about fake news and how to wade through all that information and the kind of the history and all of that. So if you're interested in that, you can go back and watch that previous one.
All right, so a lot of our students are asking about the Illuminati and the Freemasons. What do you guys have to say about that?
Well, the Illuminati and the Freemasons are not the same. They are two different groups. So the Illuminati, that is based on fact. So what we know, they were founded in Bavaria, which is now part of Germany, in the 18th century by a professor who wanted to limit the interference of the church in private lives. So when you see the church capitalized like that, back in that day, that's the Catholic Church. So back in that time, the Catholic Church was really in your life, and they controlled, that they taxed you. They knew everything about you. They controlled all of your life. And so Adam Weishaupt wanted to limit that. So he founded the Illuminati based on the Freemasons. One of their main things was that no one over 30 was allowed because of the belief that only people under 30 had unformed minds and that they were open to change. This was stamped out by the government of Bavaria in the 1780s, or were they?
Who knows?
Who really does
I heard
know?
Beyonce's in the Illuminati.
See, I heard that Madonna is in the Illuminati.
I'll tell you, if the Illuminati exists, then Beyonce's in it. I'm just kidding. I don't know anything about it.
But it could be.
Yeah.
Now, the Freemasons.
Dispelling conspiracy.
We're
We
dispelling.
are dispelling conspiracy
spreading
theories.
them.
We're just having fun
Having
with them.
fun with it. The Masons or the Freemasons, that is a completely different order. That is a fraternal order loosely based on religion. It is open to men only, although there is a female aspect called the Eastern Star. To be a member, you must profess faith in a supreme being. They have a lot of secret rites and ceremonies, and their membership is worldwide.
So I will say, we know the Freemasons are real. I mean, many of us are related to or know men who are Freemasons. And so we know it's a real organization. And we know that they're very secretive, right? Their buildings don't have windows. They have secret rituals. And so that lends itself immediately to conspiracy theories because it's a bunch of people who are
Doing secret
powerful
things
in their community. Some of them are civic leaders, and they're doing things that are secret. I don't know that they have secret control over society, but I see where that conspiracy theory comes from because it's very secretive. And as we're going to talk about in just a minute, most of the companies that have a bunch of conspiracy theories around them are both powerful and secretive, and that kind of leads to people coming up with conspiracies about them. The same reason we have conspiracy theories about government organizations. They're powerful and secretive. What are you making that face for, Misty? Aren't most of the presidents Freemasons? I don't know. I know several of the presidents have been Freemasons. I don't know.
That's on the dollar bill.
Yeah, and that symbol that you see on the screen is on the dollar bill and is an icon from the Freemason imagery. And you would know that if you had seen the movie National Treasure.
Which I have. So, yeah. All right. So now we're going to bring it forward to current day. Robert Mercer. Robert Mercer is a money man. Robert Mercer and his daughter, Rebecca, they are Cambridge Analytica. So if you've heard of Cambridge Analytica, you will know that they were very active in this misinformation campaign that went on during the last presidential election and is still going on around Brexit. And Brexit is Great Britain's attempt to extricate themselves from the EU. And that is still going on. So who is Robert Mercer? He's very secretive. He is very, very wealthy. He is a billionaire, computer scientist, major donor to the Trump campaign, but only after his first choice, Ted Cruz, was out of the race. Then he switched everything over to Trump. And he's also very involved with Brexit. He helped harvest this Facebook profile data through Cambridge Analytica. He's one of the most influential people in the world. A lot of people feel like Robert Mercer is directing things, not only in the United States, but in Europe and Great Britain. But why? He's also been tied into
The Illuminati?
the Illuminati, a constitutional amendment reform. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but there is an attempt to have a constitutional amendment, basically rewrite. And I've got the things here, what they're trying to do. They want to get the federal government out of our healthcare system. They want to impose term limits on Congress, balance the budget, which that is a separate issue, but economically, that's not wise. That can't be done. They want to mandate nationwide voter ID, take back our education systems, whatever that means, and limit federal powers. So these are some of the things that Robert Mercer is in favor of. So is this a modern day conspiracy theory?
So again, I think we're talking about someone who's very powerful, very secretive. And so that combination lends itself to conspiracy theories, not to mention that he is involved in helping harvest personal private data through Cambridge Analytica. That makes him kind of a target. Do I think he has secret control of the government? No, I think he has very visible control over lots of politicians. And as we're going to talk about in a little while, corporations that have a lot of money have a lot of political control through lobbying groups and through political donations. And so, I mean, that's where you start to see all of our fields kind of intertwine. You know, as an English professor, I'm interested in information literacy. As an economics professor, you're interested in the economy. Misty can tell us lots of things about government and history. I mean, all of these things working together. He's real. He's visible. We can look up how much money he donated to different interest groups and to politicians. So I don't think it's a secret.
When you say a PAC, can you explain that briefly? Just
so a PAC is a way to donate money to political candidates
legally,
and they have to report what they get every quarter. And I could do a more in-depth if I didn't have this horrible voice.
So it stands for Political Action Committee.
It's a way to gain influence.
And it gives a way to gain influence. So you can only donate a certain amount of money to an individual candidate. There is a limit to how much money you can donate directly to a candidate.
Above board.
Right. So I can only give a certain amount of money to Ted Cruz or to Donald Trump or to anybody else. But I can form my own Political Action Committee, and it can be 100% in service of a politician, but I have unlimited amount of money I can donate to that Political Action Committee. And so that's a way that a person who is a billionaire can go way over contribution limits.
Okay, very interesting. So this is a current day person. Keep your ears open. You're going to hear about him more.
So I want to hear more about some corporations.
Okay.
So
How about that?
Some of these and some of the questions that we've had, we're going to talk about some of the things that you've said in your comments right now.
Okay, but I do want to address something that someone just made a comment about, which is the Bernstein Bears conspiracy theory.
What is that?
So this is Miss Hannah talking. I 100% understand what you're talking about. I tried so hard to get one of these webinars to be about this conspiracy theory, but ultimately we just had too many great topics. But you're welcome to send me a message, because I am so intrigued by the Bernstein Bears conspiracy theory, which is that we are all living in an alternate universe.
Oh, see, my comment,
as evidenced by the way the word Bernstein is spelled. And I'm not going to get into it any farther.
And I liked
the Mandela effect.
The Mandela effect.
I like the comment on Scientology. That is something interesting. We're not going to touch, though.
We are 100%
not touching. Hands off.
Okay. And I just want to say, I'm glad you're engaging and having fun in the comments, but we do want to make sure you understand, and we'll get into this as we continue, that we don't want to spread information unless we have verified its authenticity. So to say I once heard, or I once read, or I saw an article, or I read on Facebook that XYZ is true, that doesn't make it true. Now, you're welcome to have all the fun you want, but just don't spread information that we don't have confirmed.
Trust and verify.
Misty wants to know about corporate conspiracy theories. And so here are some of the big ones. The biggest is, of course, related to oil and gas. Oil and gas industry is huge. There are at least 5 major multinational corporations that I can think of that have lots of financial and political control in our current social environment. And this is once again the confluence of lots of power, lots of money, and secrecy leading to conspiracy theories. There are tons of conspiracy theories about the oil and gas industry. The one I want to talk to you about is that oil companies suppressed or are suppressing technology to make more fuel efficient or electric cars. And you can see why people would think this, because if we develop fuel efficient or electric cars, then nobody needs oil and gas anymore. So oil and gas companies have in their best interest, right, to not support the development of fuel efficient and electric cars. And so this is a conspiracy theory that people have been espousing at least since the 90s. The truth is complicated.
As all truths are.
They haven't done any secret suppressing of technology that we can verify. They do, as we were talking about earlier, have a lobbying group, the Western States Petroleum Association. So all oil and gas companies fund this lobbying group, and the lobbying group spends all of their time in Washington talking to politicians, trying to convince them that their way is the right way. And this lobbying group has financed many campaigns that are against the interests of electric or fuel-efficient cars. But that's all public. It's not secret. There's no conspiracy. They're very publicly donating to their lobbying group. It's a private interest group. And that lobbying group's actions are also very public. And so one of the ones that comes to mind is that municipalities wanted to put in, so cities, counties, states, wanted to put charging stations in. And you've probably seen electric car charging stations
like
in
Walmart,
some places. Yeah.
Stuff like that.
And depending on where you live, you may see more or fewer of these. But this lobbying group killed a lot of legislation regarding the government funding charging stations for electric cars. Because if you have nowhere to charge your car, you won't buy an electric car, is the logic. That lobbying group has done a lot of shady stuff. A lot of their commercials and a lot of their advertisements, they make it look like it's a grassroots consumer group instead of a corporate lobbying group, which is shady, but still legal. And Chevron, which is an oil and gas company, did buy the company making electric car batteries. That was in the 90s. And so a lot of people said, well, you bought the battery company to put the battery company out of business so then people couldn't buy electric cars. So all those things are true, and all those things are kind of shady and underhanded, but none of them are a secret suppression of technology.
Right. And they're not really illegal.
Right.
Immoral, maybe. Unethical.
Right. But as we're going to say later, companies really don't have morals. Coca-Cola is
the real thing.
Or is it? Just kidding. Coca-Cola is, again, a very powerful company with a lot of money. And so there are a lot of, and they're very secret. Obviously, they have a secret formula. So there are a lot of conspiracy theories about them. They're a very old company. There's a lot of mythos built up around the Coca-Cola company. So one conspiracy is that that health researchers do studies on the health effects of corn syrup or high fructose corn syrup. And there's a conspiracy theory that Coca-Cola is privately paying to get this research skewed to make it look like corn syrup is less harmful than it is. We know that high fructose corn syrup is basically poison to a person's body. I say as I drink a Coca-Cola, but there's a conspiracy theory about what they're doing with research. There's also a conspiracy theory about New Coke, which I'm sure most people don't remember New Coke.
I remember New Coke.
But there was Coca-Cola.
Yep.
And then they came out with New Coke, which they said was a better version of Coke. It was a huge failure. Everyone hated it. They came out with it because they were Pepsi was eating into their market share. And so they said, well, let's come out with New Coke. And then New Coke was gross. Everyone hated it. And so there's this conspiracy theory that was all staged for for publicity and all done on purpose to get more people to drink Coke when they brought back Coca-Cola
Yep.
Classic. And people did drink more Coca-Cola after New Coke. So those are two conspiracy theories about Coca-Cola. These are the ones that don't have to do with weird alien things.
Okay.
So it is a huge company built on keeping secrets, right? Nobody knows the formula of Coca-Cola.
I heard it had cocaine in it originally.
It did have cocaine in it originally. Yes.
Okay.
So do they alter research? No. They do sponsor corporate events for researchers, and they do sponsor National Institutes of Health events. But there's no evidence that they have any input on the research that those people do. It's more likely that they're just paying to get their name put everywhere, the same way they pay for stadiums or they pay universities to get Coke machines put into the schools. Right. There's absolutely no evidence that they have any say-so on the research itself. And the conspiracy theory about New Coke is interesting because the president at the time of Coca-Cola said, "We're not that dumb and we're not that smart."
Which is not the same thing as saying, no, we didn't do that.
Right. But he said, we're not dumb enough to come out with something everyone would hate, and we're not smart enough to orchestrate this year-long publicity stunt that continues to work.
Which I don't know. I think they probably are.
You think so?
I think so. I'm a Dr. Pepper person myself.
It looks like some of our students are surprised to learn that Coca-Cola used to have cocaine in it. But there's a long history of that, and maybe we can get into it one day in the future. But yeah, it did. It had
no,
cocaine.
Dr. Pepper is not the same. It's a totally different product. So gosh.
I mean, all sodas have high fructose corn syrup in them or high amounts of sugar. So,
which is why I'm drinking water.
Professor Thurman's drinking water. Professor Hannah's drinking Coke. I don't know what Professor Wilson Mertens is doing. She's drinking water and then squirting honey down her throat.
Because she's sick. This is always a great one.
I went back and forth on doing Big Pharma because
I used to be in the pharmaceutical industry.
I did not know that.
I did.
So you're part of the conspiracy.
I laugh. I laugh at this
because you can't tell us the truth.
I will.
Okay, so here are three, and one of you guys brought one of these up a minute ago. So I'm glad that you did.
Yeah.
So here are three conspiracy theories, two conspiracy theories, and I want to make sure that you guys know these are conspiracy theories. And as we discussed last week, it's a theory. It's not true. Please don't go home and say, "Did you guys know that this happened?" Okay, so the first conspiracy theory is that pharmaceutical companies orchestrated the Ebola outbreak in order to sell medication and preventive medication. The other is that pharmaceutical companies, in conjunction with the government, have the cure for cancer, but keep it to themselves because they can make more money selling chemotherapy and other drugs than they can selling the cure for cancer. And of course, there are lots and lots of conspiracy theories about vaccines related to pharmaceuticals.
Which we're doing one.
And we're not we're not going to talk about the vaccines today because we have a whole webinar in a few weeks about vaccines. So I just want you to know we're not ignoring that topic. Okay, so the truth is, I can't tell you whether either of these is true, but there is absolutely no evidence anywhere in recorded history to support either one of these conspiracy theories, which suggests to me it's probably not true. There is no evidence to suggest that pharmaceutical companies conspire to cover up cures or exaggerate the need for vaccines. There are no pieces of evidence in the world that suggest they have the cure for cancer and are hiding it from us. And I understand that they're big, powerful corporations that are only out to get money. And it's true that pharmaceutical companies probably, as entities, don't care about us as people. But they also probably don't have the cure for cancer.
Yeah. And just to weigh in here, I used to be a pharmaceutical sales rep. And a lot of people, I just see a comment that big pharma's played a role in the heroin epidemic by pushing pain pills. Doctors write prescriptions. Pharmacy companies do not write prescriptions. So if you want to go back and say who's prescribing too much medicine, then you do have to go back to the physicians themselves. So that is one thing. And then the other thing, if you think about how do pharmaceutical companies make money? They make money by engaging in R&D, coming up with either new uses for existing drugs or new drugs that they have found through R&D, and then they proceed to go out and sell them. So if we limit or restrict the amount of money that they can make, or if we put any type of restriction on the price of these products, then in effect, we are limiting the amount of R&D, research and development, that companies will do. So we do need to think about those things when we say, well, this is too much, or, I want to go to another country and buy it cheaper. The United States does have the best medical care in the world, no doubt. And if you look at all of the heads of state, if there's something serious, they come here for treatment. So anyway, that was just a push.
Yeah, and I mean, so research and development is expensive. It's the same reason a textbook is expensive. The book itself, the paper and the ink, is not that expensive, but the amount of money they spent for scholars to research and write the book costs a lot of money. Now, that isn't to say that there aren't textbook scams where they release a new edition where they only change one page and they jack up the price so you can't get used textbooks. But the reason that they cost more than normal books is because they sell fewer copies and they cost a lot to make. Same kind of thing with pharmaceuticals.
Supply and demand.
Right. So now, are there lots of things that we can criticize pharmaceutical companies for? Absolutely. Right. They're extreme capitalists. Yep. So they have things that can help people feel better and they sell them for money, right? So they're capitalists because that's their corporation.
And we live in a capitalist society.
Right. So you can criticize companies for being too big and too powerful and perhaps being less humane than you wish they were, but there is no evidence to suggest that they're engaged in any kind of large-scale conspiracy to spread Ebola or to hide the cure for cancer. Are we getting any questions, Missy?
I think we just need to move on to the
Okay.
All right. Okay. So let's deal with Huawei. So if you have never heard of Huawei, Huawei is a Chinese company. Huawei has always been suspected of stealing secrets from the United States. A lot of China's products, many people believe, are things that have been literally copied almost down to the last nth from U.S. products. And then they come over and they undercut the prices. So Huawei has been under suspicion for years, charged with stealing trade secrets. They were sued by T-Mobile, and T-Mobile won in civil court a multi-billion-dollar judgment against Huawei. So that happened. But now Huawei has been charged with violating the Iranian sanctions. They're closely aligned with, some would say that they're a puppet of the Chinese government. Their CFO was arrested in Canada at the request of the United States. She is the daughter of the founder, Ren Zhengfei. China retaliated by detaining U.S. nationals. So people that are U.S. citizens that were in China, they were detained. So in a closed or a semi-closed economy, there is a fine line between private companies and the government. I want you to imagine if, for example, a company in France or Italy put some sort of sanctions on the United States company. Can you even imagine the United States going, oh, okay, no Italians get to leave. They're all, you guys are, we're going to just put you in jail. It simply wouldn't happen. But that's what's going on with Huawei and with the Chinese government. This has become a huge deal. So what's going to happen? Well, they're going to possibly be taken to criminal court. They've already gone to civil court. So they go to criminal court. They could receive a fine. They could be kicked out of the United states, but they are intertwined with multiple U.S. companies. So they would have to extricate themselves from those companies. Mm-hmm. The main thing that has already been happening to Huawei is a loss of trust and a loss of goodwill. Already, the Australian government has forbidden companies from dealing with Huawei, followed by New Zealand, France, and the UK. And there's growing global skepticism about the company's transparency or lack of it. And they will lose money. However, I will point out that their income is in the billions of dollars. So if we slap them on the wrist, $10 million, that's nothing. So what should be done with these foreign companies that come in and they talk out of, both sides of their face. They're literally over here doing secrets. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if you guys have been following this. Huawei was trying to buy a product from a U.S. inventor, and it's called Diamond Glass. And Diamond Glass, he has a patent on it. But of course, some people don't follow whatever happens to patents. So Huawei was interested in talking to him. They literally wired him up, they being the FBI, wired him up, sent him to Las Vegas to talk to Huawei. And I don't know what happened, but that's going on as we speak. So what do you guys think about that?
So how does all of this affect us?
Well, aside from intriguing our curiosity and making us highly engaged in discussion forums.
Yes.
So the first thing is money, right?
Yes.
So Americans vote with their dollars.
Correct.
And symbolically, not literally. Right. And so if it's important to you, then you can look into the business practices of a corporation and choose to support businesses with ethical business practices. And you decide what's important to you, whether it's important to you that products, where they're manufactured, how much corporate employees are paid, how corporations are structured, where corporations donate money politically. You decide that for yourself. But just know that wherever you buy things and to whomever you give money, you are, in effect, supporting them financially.
That's true. But just, I hate to be devil's advocate here.
No, please.
There was an occasion a few years ago, I don't know if you guys remember, when it came out that Nike was using child labor in Asia. Mm-hmm. And so everyone said, and I'm just going to use the term everyone, a campaign actually came out and they said, we need to boycott Nike because they use child labor. All right. So we're thinking with our U.S. brains, that's horrible. These little kids in Asia should be free to go run out on the playground and play soccer, not work in these horrible conditions for money. So the boycott happened. So what really was the result of that is these kids, it's not like if they didn't work for Nike, they were then going to be allowed to go have a normal childhood. They simply went from a good job with Nike, where they were basically working in a safe environment, to no job at all. They were helping to support their family. And then it came out who instigated that whole boycott. And it was a trade union in the United States. So basically they were protecting themselves. So it's very difficult to figure out who to support. Made in the United States, that only has to be the final step.
Right.
Has to be made in the United States. Everything could be made somewhere else and brought together. So I agree that you should look into the businesses that you support, but it can be a rabbit hole.
And you can look up where corporations spend their money politically. You can look up what political candidates they donate to directly, and you can look up which political action campaigns they support and donate money to. And corporations can influence the laws that regulate them, which means I can, as a corporation, influence the making of a law that regulates what I do in my own business, which is in effect saying, like, you can pay your babysitter to let you get away with things, as a very simple metaphor. So you can look up corporate political donations. It's all public information. And if it's important to you, I'm not saying everyone should necessarily do this. If it's important to you, then you can spend your money on corporations that are in keeping with your own values.
Right.
So Amazon is a major corporation, and they have a lot of business practices that have been criticized. The way that their employees are treated, the way their employees are compensated, the way that they put other companies out of business. And there was a time when they were found guilty of price fixing when it came to ebooks. And those kinds of things cost us money. So if you are someone who thinks that those things are important, you've got to pay attention. You've got to look up the information, and you've got to look up information in more than one place, right? Because number one, Amazon owns news agencies. So I'm not saying that they are or are not influencing what's reported in those news agencies, but it's important to look up information in more than one place. And it's important to find out where you're spending your money so that you are not, if you care about it, supporting corporations that engage in practices that are against your own values. The other way that this affects us personally is our privacy.
Mm-hmm.
Companies are mining and selling your information. Nothing is worth more to companies than your information. And what you post online, what you search for, just like Professor Thurman was saying earlier, if you do a Google search for a pair of pants, then you're going to see nothing but pants
For the rest,
for weeks.
Yeah. Also, I'd like to point out here, all of you guys are going to be moving on to bigger and better jobs. You need to realize when you post things on Facebook, Snapchat, Insta, wherever, that information does not go away. So if you think it's cool to be posting your pictures in a, you're totally partying down and you're wearing next to nothing, realize that a future employer, they can access that. So you might want to consider cleaning up your social media because the world will be able to see that. And you might not always want to project the image that you're thinking is so cool today. So that's just sort of a side note.
Aside from your money, you're giving all of your information to Facebook.
Location.
Right. You're giving information to Facebook constantly, and Facebook is using that information and selling it. I'm not telling you to delete your Facebook. I'm just telling you that your information can be mined for business reasons. And as we recently saw, to influence political elections, to target people, post misinformation, and to spread things that unfairly influence voting habits. So it's important to be aware of that because your information is something, number one, you can't get back. And number two, is more valuable to companies than, 99 cents that you spend on something.
True.
So what I'm bringing this all to is that it is your job as a citizen, as a student, as a scholar, as a human, it is your job to look for the truth.
Yes.
Not to look for information that confirms what you already think, not to ignore people who don't agree with you. That's not what I'm telling you to do. I'm telling you to look for actual verifiable information. And even the conversations that we have informally can spread misinformation and unfairly influence people's behaviors. So before you share things like, I heard blah, 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 blah. I read blah, 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 blah. My mom said, I read on Facebook. I heard in the comments section. You've got to look up information. We talked last time about how to find and verify information. And if you want more information about it, go back and watch our first webinar that we did last week. I will tell you that believing false conspiracy theories can keep you from having an actual understanding of the world. It's fun to talk about the Illuminati, but if you think the Illuminati are secretly controlling everything that we're doing, it keeps you from having an understanding of the world, and it keeps you from seeing who's really in control, right? It keeps you from seeing the corporations and the government agencies that are maliciously doing things against your interests. Companies are not out to get you, but they are out to get your money. And if you believe fake conspiracy theories, you blind yourself to the real problems that are going on, which means that you can't do anything about them. I will tell you this, corporations are amoral. That doesn't mean they're immoral. It means they're amoral. They make decisions based on money, not ethics, not values, not morals, money, which means that we have to pay attention to what they're doing. Lots of companies have belief systems. Lots of companies have corporate cultures that cause them to pay people higher wages or to treat them better. But usually they do that because they are trying to change their corporate image to make more money.
Yep. It's all about the bottom line.
Corporations are almost always amoral. And the only people who are going to change anything are the ones who are paying attention.
And voting. So go vote. Ooh. The earth is flat.
No, it is not.
The earth is flat. You can fall right off the edge.
100% not flat.
So in a couple of weeks, we will be talking about this. And Professor Davis Hanna will tell us why she thinks the earth is not flat.
I don't think it. I know it.
But what about the fake moon landing?
Oh my God. The moon landing is real.
So if you want to tune in and fight about this, That'll be February 20th at 2 p.m. All right, for those of you who have tuned in today to get credit, we will put the link up. So when this is over, give me about 3 minutes, log back in, look for the video description. The link to get credit will be in there. It'll be open and active for 48 hours. After that time, you'll need to contact your instructor, and they'll have a different assignment for you to get credit.
All right. So unless you guys have any more, so 48 hours, the link will be there. Give us a couple minutes. Thank you for joining us, and we will hopefully see you again on the 20th for our next webinar about how the Earth is 100% round and not flat in any way. And I just want to make that very clear right now. All right. Thanks everybody.
Thanks for joining. Bye.
Bye.